An upscale home in New York City's Queens neighborhood had all the marks of wealth, prestige, and affluence. The boy was just 18 months old when the foster care system placed him in a home where the arms of loving parents, private schools, and weekends at the shore should have awaited him. Instead, the boy came face to face with unspeakable acts of abuse, shaming, slapping, neglect, and more. One fateful day, at the age of 14, he disclosed to his parents he was not like the other boys. He was transgender. Physical violence, stabbing, homelessness followed. He became one more nameless throwaway, one more statistic to add to the growing 2.5 million homeless LGBT youth in America. Robbed and raped again and again and again. At age 14, undergoing gender transition while attending school at a prestigious prep school was not faint for the heart. I didn't have the $1 million Kardashian glam team that Caitlyn Jenner has today. But what I did have was myself. And that's all I knew in the world, was myself. For me, my path started wrapping t-shirts around my head because I could not afford expensive wigs at that age. That feeling of having nothing and emptiness had taken over. And because that was my truth, having nothing and having to use t-shirts to represent my hair, I was constantly ridiculed and physically attacked by the guys and girls in my school. Yeah, that was my path at that time. One day I went to school and I learned that my teacher, Ms. Peterson, had lost her home due to a fire. And she was living out of her hair salon in Mount Vernon, New York. It didn't sit right with me because I understood that feeling of not having a home. So I donated my last $10 that I got from engaging in survival sex work the night before. When word got back to Ms. Peterson that I was the only student to donate to the fundraiser, in a transformative moment, she stops me in the hallway and she says, "Hey, Dee, I hear that you donated to my fundraiser, and I just want to say I appreciate that so much." I said, "Well, Mama P, let's just say I know all too well what not having a home feels like." She says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, right now I don't have family, I don't have resource, but I choose to come to school every day in hope that I can build a home again in a way that I never had." She says, "Well, for starters, we're gonna help you by taking off the t-shirts off your head. And the next step is gonna be to let you know is that you are not alone." See, my pain was gender transition. Her pain was losing a home. And what I've learned is that the commonality of pain allows people to accept one another exactly as they are. So today I'm going to deconstruct how pain is the catalyst to emptiness, and emptiness is the key to liberation. The most I ever felt empty in my life was when I got to this point where I graduated high school. I graduated high school and went on to college, and I felt like, Daniella, you've made it. You finally are gonna take yourself out of the gutters and live in the freedom that you've always seen yourself living in. Let's just say the story doesn't get better yet. I went to college and I met a friend. She expressed when winter recess was approaching that she would be homeless because the RA could no longer help her. I understood firsthand the violence and the trauma that comes with homelessness. So I said to her, "I don't have much back home, but at least I have friends and a community that will open their door for us." We go back to New York City, and let's just say this wasn't quite fun in the sun. We didn't go to the movies, we didn't hang out long nights. We experienced the two R's that no one wants to hear. She experienced robbery, and I experienced rape. Shortly after returning to Rochester from winter recess, my trauma and violence had taken over me. I started to live in the thoughts of, why me? How could I have survived the torture of the abuse and the trauma that the quote-unquote chosen family have given me? How could I have overcome homelessness, graduate high school, and experience rape? Those thoughts of why me? What did I do to deserve this? How could someone do this to me? I returned back to New York City, and I knew at this pivotal moment I was going to redefine my role, because I understood pain was something that was following me, but it's not what my future looks like. My lesson began shortly after returning to New York City, and I applied to an internship program downtown Manhattan, New York. Shortly after applying, I got accepted. And in a transformative moment, I walked by a newsstand with my friend, and I seen a woman revealing that she was a trans woman like me. I turned to my friend and I said, "Girl, I'm gonna meet her. I'm going to meet Janet Mock, who is now a New York Times best-selling author." He looked at me and was like, "Girl, good luck with that." I said, "Well, one thing I know for sure is that I'm gonna show her I'm not asking for the glam, I'm not asking for the fame, I'm just simply asking for the tools that I lack. My life has shown me what unsuccess looks like, and this is the only time in my life I can redefine my role." He said, "Well, let me know how it goes." 2 weeks after having that conversation with my friend, I reached out to Janet Mock in an impassionate email. Since that email exchange, she's connected me with community leaders that have liberated me. They have liberated me to help me realize that either my pain, trauma, and violence was going to take control over my life, or I was going to take this trauma and violence and turn it into freedom and success. A year later, the unimaginable happened. I was a part of the Emmy Award-winning documentary Laverne Cox Presents the T-Word. I was traveling the world, a national ambassadorship with the Human Rights Campaign, my exciting new position here in New Mexico at Equality New Mexico. For me, at 21 years old, and as a woman of color, I thought I would never be able to say these words, that I was privileged. But see how it's so funny, in my moment of feeling privileged 2 weeks before moving to New Mexico, I was staying with a friend in Times Square, and I was going downtown, so instead of taking the train, instead of taking a cab, I chose to use the bike share system, because that was a time in my life where I could never imagine being able to afford a bike share. I came from homelessness, I came from violence. And so to have a credit card to be able to get access to this bike meant a lot to me. It validated the privilege I thought I had. As I rode downtown, I seen a group of women, four transgender women. In that moment, I had to stop because I said to myself, that was you 4 years ago. But that was the you that didn't have resource. That was the you that didn't have support. It broke my heart because it made me question the work I was doing for my community. When I was standing on that corner on many winter nights, I cried and begged for a client because I needed the money for food. I needed the money for shelter. And as I rode off, it reminded me of how I deserved love. And when I found that love, not only was I able to live in that love, but I was able to give that same love to everyone else around me. It made me ask, who's loving them? When I rode off 1 block away to go get some pizza, I seen an officer and I said, "Officer, am I allowed to leave this bike here?" He responds, "Did you pay for it?" Implying that I stole it. And in that very moment, I knew what I was up against. In that very moment, I understood who I was and what my community was up against. And then I said, imagine what those 4 girls on the corner are up against. In August 2015, 4 transgender women of color were reported murdered in 1 day. We are at a state of emergency in the transgender community. My community members are being killed in the streets in horrific ways. Discrimination is legal still in many states. Am I the lucky one? Or am I the chosen one? What makes me so lucky when so many of my sisters have lost their lives, I will never know. But what I do know is that I'm standing here in my pain, I'm standing here in my truth. But the difference between my pain 4 years ago and my pain now is that my pain has liberated me to life. It has liberated me in a way that I hope to liberate you here today. So the next time when you have those moments when you're questioning, why me? Or the moments when you have food on your table, remember the 40% of youth who identify as homeless. We need your love, we need your support. We need your support for the 41% of transgender people who have attempted suicide. We need your liberation for the 19% of transgender people in this country living in a household with less than $10,000 a month. Join the revolution in loving and accepting someone different, because different is the new frontier.